Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin in Yellowknife, where a weekend power outage wreaked havoc on local events and businesses. On Saturday, parts of the city were without electricity for several hours, and Yellowknife businesses felt the impact. Now they're coming to terms with the aftermath. Jocelyn Chappelle has more.
It was a weekend packed with excitement for Yellowknife. An unexpected power outage was not on the agenda, though. On Saturday, some were left in the dark for up to 7 hours. Mark Henry is the president of the Yellowknife Chamber of Commerce and the owner of Copper House. He says outages aren't uncommon, but that they are difficult for businesses across town.
After these outages, there's quite often fried equipment that can run thousands and thousands of dollars and then impact your ability to execute on your business operations. So,
a one-night touring play at the Northern Arts Cultural Centre was impacted as well. The centre says it was the first time they had to cancel showing under the circumstances. Over at the Capitol Theatre, things weren't running smoothly either. Chris Woods is the general manager of the theatre. He says they lost around $10,000 in revenue and are still adding up other costs.
It also took down our computer system, which took 24 hours to come back online. It corrupted files. It took out backups, and only now are we starting to get our figures entered from the weekend.
Wood added that residents have been understanding while sorting things out. The Yellowknives Dene First Nation had their spring carnival this weekend. Thanks to a backup generator, things were able to go on as planned. NACA Power says a broken breaker is to blame for the outages. The power company says they are investigating the cause and looking to replace the breaker. Jocelyn Chappelle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Diamond prices have plummeted and the ripple effects are being felt across the Northwest Territories. In 2024 alone, the Territories' 3 operating diamond mines lost hundreds of millions of dollars. According to Rio Tinto's 2024 financial statement, Inuvik experienced a $127 million loss. Burgundy reported the Ekati mine lost nearly $95 million. And Gachokwe's minority stake owner, Mountain Province, reported an $81 million loss. These are partially due to the low price of diamonds over the past year, a price that remains low. According to Tenoris, a company that tracks diamond retail prices, the average cost of a 1-carat natural diamond peaked at $7,000 3 years ago. This Christmas, the price was $5,000. That's about a 27% fall. The CBC's Luke Carroll has been looking into this, and he joins me now with more. So, Luke, what are experts saying about how these low diamond prices could affect the NWT economy?
So I spoke with Graham Clinton. He's a Yellowknife economist, and he wrote a report called Eyes Wide Open. So that details the economic challenges the territory will face when the mines close. I asked him about the low prices of the diamonds, and Clinton says there's a real risk that the mines could just close down early if they're not profitable. And there are upwards of 1,000 jobs relying on them. Clinton also marveled at, given how much we rely on the mines, how unaware most people are of the diamond market.
In the territory, you ask, what does a rough diamond sell for today? And how does it compare to what it sold for yesterday? Nobody knows. It's like we don't care. And the fact is, it's critically important.
And he's not the only one saying this is a legitimate fear. I spoke with Heather Exner-Puro. She's a senior fellow and director of energy, natural resources, and environment at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute in Ottawa. It's a think tank.
I'll just mention, my husband works at the De Beers mine. So this is, not just professional, but a personal interest for me. And there is often unease, that with the prices of diamonds where they are, where the commodity is, that something could happen overnight. And we did see that with Snap Lake.
Heather mentioned what happened with the Snap Lake mine. Just a reminder that in 2015, De Beers closed that mine and laid off 434 employees because of a drop in the market in the price of diamonds, Megan.
So what are the mines saying about this then, Luke?
So I asked them about how bad 2024 was and if it could change their closure plans. So Inuvik is supposed to begin closing in early 2026. I got an emailed response from them that says part of the financial losses in 2024 were due to the tragic Fort Smith plane crash. They also blame the end of surface level mining at the A21 open pit in 2023. They did not provide any real information about how they were necessarily responding to these low diamond prices or if it's making them think about closing early. The most they would say by email is, "We remain committed to operating at Yellowknife with safety as the main focus as we move towards closure." So the owner of Ekati, Burgundy, also responded to my request by email a bit more candidly. They said 2024 was extremely challenging due to the historic low rough diamond prices with no relief on costs. But they continue to say that they were optimistic about the future of Ekati well into the mid-2030s. I also reached out to Gachaguy's minority owner, Mountain Province, and the majority owner, De Beers, but I didn't receive a response by deadline. That mine is expected to begin its closure around 2030, Megan.
Okay, so as we talked about before, the retail prices dropped by about 27% over 3 years. Do we know what's causing that drop?
So there's a few factors for it. I spoke with a couple analysts about this subject. One of them is Paul Zimnisky. He's an independent diamond analyst based in New York. And he says lab-grown diamonds have been growing in the market from 1% 10 years ago to 20% right now. But there's been other issues.
And then if we look more globally, China, which is the second largest consumer of natural diamond jewelry, that market has been hit heavily, I would say, over the last 12 to 18 months. Diamond demand there is down, as much as 50% relative to, say, pre-pandemic numbers.
Now, I also spoke with Karen Costello, who is the executive director of the NWT and Nunavut Chamber of Mines, and she says the tariffs are something the mines are worried about. Now, Zimnisky says he actually doesn't think the tariffs will have too big of an impact. He says inflation could be harmful, obviously, but he thinks that countries will settle this and prices will remain. He also says there are some positive signs right now that prices might finally be going up. Now, Exner Puro, who's the Senior Fellow and Director of Energy, Natural Resources and Environment at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, the think tank, she says even with the prices maybe recovering, the mines are going to be closing soon, whether it's this year or 10 years from now. And we don't have anything to replace them, Megan.
Okay, thanks for all your work on this, Luke.
Thanks for having me.
A coroner's inquest into the death of a Kimmirut Nunavut resident has finished. The jury returned with 32 recommendations, and their message is clear. More needs to be done to prevent suicide in the territory. TJ Deere has the details.
A warning that this story contains details of a death by suicide. The week-long inquest was looking into the death of Kimmirut resident George Alukdu. He died by suicide on February 9, 2019, from multiple stab wounds to the neck. One of the jury's most significant recommendations is for the government of Nunavut to declare a suicide crisis in the territory. This comes as the most recent mental health report from the Canadian Mental Health Association states the rates of suicide and self-harm in Nunavut are 5 and 6 times higher than the national average. Another recommendation provided is for the RCMP to always have 3 officers in Kimmirut. The inquest heard on Friday from a member of Nunavut's major crime unit who said the position for the community's full-time detachment commander is vacant.
CBC News has requested interviews with the GN and the RCMP. Other recommendations from the jury include the coroner ensuring future inquests happen in a timely manner and for the hamlet of Kimmirut to provide a safe space for youth programming. TJ Deere, CBC News, Iqaluit.
If you or someone you know needs help, there is support. You can call the Hope for Wellness helpline at 1-855-242-3310 or the Nunavut Kamatsiaktut helpline at 1-800-265-3333. A community-led search effort is underway in Inuvik NWT. People are coming together to help find Lance Breyer, who was last seen in the town on February 8th. There's a meeting tonight at Ingamo Hall to organize the next steps in the search. The CBC's Des Loreen has more.
The meeting to gather a search party for Lance Breyer is tonight in Inuvik. Organizers are asking anyone in the community to come and help.
We're calling for volunteers to come out and to help us with the search for Les's son, Lance. So we need volunteers, people with drones and skiddoos and some experience with searching.
Lance's father, Les Cardinal, is thankful to the independent investigators who are arriving in Inuvik to help. He says he can't wait to sit down with them and hear their plans for their visit to the community.
let them talk and see what their plans are, which is good. I really appreciate the help from everyone from the community and their surrounding deltas. Appreciate it. And my family does too.
The meeting is tonight at 7 p.m. at Ingamo Hall in Inuvik. Organizers are encouraging anyone to come out and help and support the search in any way they can. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
It's week 3 of the federal election campaign. The CBC's Virginie Ann takes us to the Yukon, where the local campaign has started to heat up.
2 candidates dropped out. One party held a rally. The first federal leader to visit the North stopped in Whitehorse, and election signs were vandalized. Last week was the first week in the Yukon that the campaign really got on the way. Over the weekend, Conservative candidate Ryan Leaf had his name cut off of an election sign in downtown Whitehorse. Now, this is similar to an incident from a few years ago. In 2015, Leaf had several election signs vandalized. Leaf ended up handcuffing a resident himself after he discovered a woman vandalizing his campaign signs. Meanwhile, People's Party's candidate André Fortin dropped out of the race on Sunday. He says he wasn't able to raise enough money to mount a campaign. Now the Yukon is down to 4 confirmed candidates. That's Brendan Hanley with the Liberals, who was campaigning in Whitehorse last week, Catherine McCollin with the NDPs who traveled to Dawson City, Leaf with the Conservatives, and the Green Party's candidate Gabriel Dupont. Dupont hosted Green leader Jonathan Pedneau, who visited Whitehorse last Monday. Pedneau used the opportunity to pitch a national civil defense force. And Arctic sovereignty is really something on the minds of Yukon voters. We also heard about inflation and the cost of living.
I find myself making choices at the grocery store that I've never had to make before. A jar of pickles was $10. I had to put it back.
The biggest issues that I can think of are obviously like lack of housing and healthcare. And like a lot of people I know don't have family doctors.
Some of the biggest things is absolutely affordability, as well as supporting hunters and anglers. Firearms issue is a big topic.
Finally, Leaf opened his campaign office with a major rally. It was a packed room with nearly 100 people. And looking ahead to this week, Hanley and McCollin are expected to do more door knocking. Leaf plans to hit the road and do an event in Dawson City. And the Yukon Anti-Poverty Coalition is hosting a lunch and learn with all the candidates in Whitehorse Thursday. Virginie Ann, CBC News, Whitehorse.
It's been another rocky trading day for world stock markets. Share prices saw major fluctuations and, in many cases, big drops. Markets closed with a third day of losses as investors continue to react to Donald Trump's tariff wars. There are also fears it could sink the global economy. Nis Haidari has the latest.
Markets around the world starting off with losses on Monday, the third trading day in a row where stocks and other investments show red. A big reason it's still happening, investors just don't know what tariffs are coming or going.
What everyone's doing is trying to adjust to this new reality and then selling off stocks to say until they get further notice.
Briefly this morning, some stocks jumped into positive territory on speculation a tariff pause was coming. No dice, said the White House, and markets dropped again. One thing is certain, investors and their money have seen big drops over the last few days. From oil and gas to agriculture to manufacturing to tech, market indicators have been dropping across multiple sectors. It's hard for anyone to know if any industry is a sure bet.
Here's the thing, we don't have enough information. The variables are still moving. I don't know how long these tariffs are going to be in play. I don't know if they're going to go up or down. I don't know if they're going to be negotiated away. All I can tell you right now is if you're running a business, you're flying blind right now.
CEOs in the United States and economists around the world have been warning that tariffs will slow down economic growth. Along with inflation coming from the higher prices tariffs can bring, it would mean a bad economic combination for everyone, not just people losing money on the stock market. Nis Haidari, CBC News, Calgary.
The claims period for 2 classes in the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement is now open.
First Nations children who were removed from their homes on reserve between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022, and their caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents can now submit a claim for compensation.
There are free supports to help you fill out your form.
And mental health and wellness supports if you need them.
Learn more and submit your claim at fnchildclaims.ca.
The federal election is on Monday, April 28th. Make sure you're registered to vote. If you are, you should get a voter information card in the mail. It tells you where and when you can vote. If you don't get one by April 11th, or if the information on it is incorrect, visit elections.ca. It's our vote.
For the official information you need to vote, visit elections.ca or call 1-800-463-6868.
You're not down south anymore, Toto? Tell me everything.
Deal.
Is that Canada?
Yeah. I love it.
Incredible.
Imagine how good the TV's gonna look now.
Isn't it ironic, don't you think?
Is it?
Is it?
See you there.
Every week, the issues that matter to Canadians, connecting politics to people.
Canada is not for sale.
This will be America's new golden age.
Sundays, join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
In Fort Smith NWT, the need for a treatment or detox facility is becoming a bigger conversation among residents. Community members say the gaps in addiction support are costing lives. Carla Ulrich has the story.
The timeline is yesterday because we do not have time to be, waiting any longer.
Christy Lynn Jones is a recovering addict who just celebrated 7 years of sobriety. Her recovery journey now fuels her work as a counselor and founder of Sweetgrass Healing Center. She says Fort Smith desperately needs an inpatient treatment center.
The amount of tears that have been sown, the amount of pain that our communities are going through, it's not okay. It is not okay that nothing is happening.
Fort Smith mother Kalinda Laviolette has seen the gaps firsthand when her son was needing help with his addictions. He was even begging to be admitted into a psychiatric unit. The hospital turned him down because he presented as normal. Laviolette said her son got into a treatment center within days thanks to an effort from her band office and a fast-track program. But she says people going through the medical system for treatment may wait weeks or even months. She would like to see at least a detox facility in the community because people need to be helped before they change their minds.
If they have days to sit with that, the mindset that they're carrying, the heaviness that they're carrying, the fears that start to come up again for them, they become afraid of the unknowns, or they get to a place of feeling that others don't care as well when it takes a long time. If they don't care about what happens to me, why do I care also? Why should I bother? No one's taking this seriously.
Laviolette has worked in wellness and healing for years, but her understanding of addictions is also deeply personal. She's been sober for 10 years. She says she has learned that trauma often sits at the root of substance use, even when people don't have the words to explain it.
My own experience in the past when dealing with alcoholism, if I was asked why I'm doing this or what's going on, what am I carrying within, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that keeps pushing me back to those situations and where I can't help myself even. I couldn't tell you. I didn't have the words. I didn't even know the words at all. And that's part of why they say trauma is pre-verbal.
Laviolette believes many people in the North are self-medicating pain that started long before they even knew it. She says healing starts with understanding the connection between trauma and addiction and offering real support instead of judgment. Laviolette wants to see her community be prepared through more education, more compassion, and support that's ready the moment people reach out for help. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
The company that made the wind turbines that sit on top of Heckle Hill in Whitehorse has gone belly up. Emergia Wind Technologies declared bankruptcy in Denmark last month. The company had a long-term service contract with Eagle Hill Energy, which is owned by the Kwanlin Dun First Nation. The bankruptcy caught the nation's economic arm, Chuniquan, off guard, and that's left it scrambling for a new maintenance contractor.
I think there is always a little bit of surprise, but a company like Chuniquan and a complex project like that, we always would have some backup plans and contingency plans. So I think We gathered with the board and mapped out the next couple of days, next steps, and we put a plan in motion.
Yukon will announce a new contractor in the coming days. The company says the bankruptcy will not affect the project's bottom line. Eagle Hill Energy has a 25-year power purchase agreement with the Yukon government. The turbines began turning a little more than a year ago, and they produce enough power for 650 homes. Shop Local campaigns are popping up across Canada amid a trade war with the United States. In the Yukon, it's no different. But farmers in the territory say the government should follow its own advice and shop local for food. George Moratis explains.
Bridget Hurlbert tends to the animals at Horsehaven Ranch. Relatively speaking, this is a quiet time on the farm. But that's about to change.
Right now, we're sleeping in. April 9th, calving starts. So we get up about like 7:30 in the morning. Calving will start April 9th and we'll be up every 3 hours.
Something else keeping her up, a lack of business from the Yukon government. The government buys food for hospitals, schools, jails, and more. But last year, Hurlbert says the government placed just one order for 50 pieces of beef jerky.
It'd be really great to have that support so that we could have the means to keep living this lifestyle. We do everything from growing the feed to raising the animals and the livestock to selling the meat.
So Hurlbert has been forced to pivot. The farm now sells 2/3 of its cattle, about 90 of these animals, to BC, Alberta, and Alaska.
So we get impacted by things like carbon tax and tariffs and everything at every point in the chain. If we could have more support and just be able to grow our businesses and kind of give them a fighting chance, that would be really great.
Al Stannard is all too familiar with procurement woes. He owns Little Red Hen Eggs, a small poultry farm north of Whitehorse.
Go to anyone in the ledge right now and they'll say, well, we love local food. But I always ask, what's in your fridge?
Stannard says everyday Yukoners are consistent buyers. These eggs are headed off to grocery stores across the territory. But Stannard says just 1% of his company's sales are to the government.
And we do sell to them. I'd love to sell more. I don't believe that we should depend on the government, but it would give a lot of the farms here that sort of constant that the banks would like to see to do an expansion. I mean, economies of scale is what's going to bring our price down and make us more affordable to everyone, not just the folks who well, essentially can afford a brown egg.
Better days may be coming for Yukon farmers. The government has launched a new online marketplace where local food producers can list their products. But so far, uptake has been slow. Just 4 local growers are listed on the site. Government says now the priority is connecting buyers with growers. In the meantime, farmers remain cautiously optimistic. George Moratis, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Scientists now have an established lab space in Ottawa to conduct research on climate change and the impact of increased shipping in the north. It's called the IQPASR project. The research looks into things like underwater sea noise and microplastics in water and sediment. Researchers say the new lab allows them to analyze microplastics and figure out exactly what they're made of. That information could help determine whether the plastics are coming from ships passing through the region.
So this was one of the issues that communities actually identified as being important to them. When you think about where plastic might end up, obviously a main concern is with country food, and as well as with fish and things like that.
The research is being led by community leaders and researchers in Canada and the UK. Some Inuvik residents are pushing back against a British visitor's claim that she's the first woman to cross Baffin Island solo. Camilla Hempelman-Adams says she completed the trek from Qikiqtarjuaq to Pungnuktu last month. She's made international headlines for setting a record, but Inuit Heritage Trust says it doesn't hold such records. Neither does Parks Canada, which says Inuit have inhabited Inuit Nunangat since before recorded time. One resident has complained to the British Traveller and some of the media outlets who've posted her story.
It's insulting to negate that part of history, and for a British person to come over and say that they're the first person to do something with our colonial history.
Kabluna is calling for an apology to Inuit. Hempelman Adams has yet to respond for comment. Women in Rankin Inlet are learning how to soften sealskins and turn them into wind pants. The Ilitoxinik Sealskin Wind Pants program was held last winter, and it was so popular that organizers decided to make it available for all of the Kivalliq region. The program's coordinator says they only had 7 spots available this year.
We ran this program in the winter for just Rankin Inlet, and we had so many applications. We had over 60 applications, and we decided that since it was so popular that we want to run it for the whole region.
Alice Manick from Baker Lake says she plans to pass the knowledge she learned to other women in her community.
To learn myself and for future references to teach my knowledge to my local Baker Lake women, to pass down the knowledge to the other ladies.
Students said the week went by fast and they're grateful for learning a valuable skill. Dawson City, Yukon's ice bridge is officially closed for the season. The seasonal crossing connects people living in West Dawson across the Yukon River. Yukon Highways and Public Works says heavy rains and warm temperatures over the weekend are behind the closure. It says the closure comes a bit earlier than usual. The bridge typically shuts down in mid-April. Yukon Highways and Public Works urges people to respect the barricades and stay off the ice. Now let's take a look at your weather. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
What kind of Canada do we want for our kids and our grandkids? I want a Canada that works for you. But Mark Carney spent his career hurting workers to make money for the powerful. He made life harder for families and easier for big corporations. And Pierre Poilievre, he wants us to be the US in everything but name. I want a Canada that works for you, where we fix our public health care, get your costs down. Let's protect our kind of Canada. That's worth fighting for.
I want to make our community a better place.